Hey everyone, just wanted to record a quick video here to give you some insight on the midterm skills check in our packet tracer. We are currently in week 5, however the packet tracer midterm that this video is covering here is under week 4. So if you click under week 4, it's all the way at the bottom, midterm skills check it's called, and there should be a .pka file. You can click on that and it will start the download. I'm using Chrome here, but any other browser should start the download. And then once it's downloaded, you should be able to open it up, and it should open up in Packet Tracer. I'm using Packet Tracer version 7. Again, if you do not have Packet Tracer, probably the best way for you to get it is to go out to the Cisco Netacad site and log in. So that's what I'm doing here now. Once you get logged in, mine looks a little bit different, but once you get logged in, you should be able to go into the CIS 164 class, and eventually you'll get to this page. You can click on Student Resources. You can then go to the download and install Packet Tracer. I'm going to skip to step 2 right here, download and install the latest version. The latest version here is version 7. Under Cisco Packet Tracer version 7, we're looking for either the 32-bit EXE or the 64-bit EXE. I recommend you go with the 64-bit if you have a 64-bit Windows version, which most people do. If you're not sure, one thing you can do is go into your system properties. So I right-click on my Start menu and choose System, and I can see here that I have a 64-bit operating system. So if I have a 64-bit operating system, I can use the 64-bit packet tracer. So you go ahead and you download that and install it, and now your packet tracer files are going to be opened up, or going to be able to be opened up, I should say. Okay, so once you have the packet tracer, it's going to make you put in some user profile here because it won't allow the guest. So I'm just going to put my name in here and hit OK. And then we are presented with our topology. So we essentially have two networks here. A network on the left hand side, which I'm pretending is a Jack Science Center if you're familiar with BSC's campus. Then a network on the right hand side, which is our tech center. And then since we have two separate networks, we need a router to route between those two networks. So our job is to configure all of this with some predefined tasks, and those are under the instructions. So there should always be a couple of windows that open up when you open up a packet tracer. One's going to be the instructions, and the other is the actual file. So here on the instructions, I'm just going to expand this here. It says our objective is to figure out default gateways on devices that need it, perform basic device configuration on a router and switch, and verify connectivity by pinging. We also have our addressing chart, which gives us all of our addresses for us except for the default gateways. That's one thing I'm going to expect that you guys figure out. But anyways, under the requirements, this is kind of what you need to do on each individual device. Okay, so I'm just going to pick out a couple of these and go ahead and show you how you do them. But the first one says name the router JSC and the switches JSC switch and TC switch respectively. So I'll go to the router and do the JSC. So in order to configure something, typically all you have to do is just click on it and then go to the CLI tab, which is the command line. I press return to get started, and now I'm on the prompt. Now this stuff goes back to chapter 2. There's some good videos in chapter 2 you could watch to see how you perform some of these tasks. Another thing you can do as well for some resources is back in our BSC shell, under the doc sharing, there is a switch commands document which goes through some of the basic commands. So I have the different modes that you're in, how to do the passwords, how to do the secret, banners, doing an IP address, just some of the basic things on here. I actually have an updated one. I should upload that here for you guys. It has a little bit more commands on there, but this is what you need essentially for this first lab. So back to the packet tracer. Name the router JSC. Okay, so I'm on the JSC router. In order to configure something, first you get into enable mode, and then you get into global configuration, or config T mode as I always call it. To set the host name, you type host name and then what it wants it to be, JSC. And the scoring is actually case sensitive, so if you did it with the lowercase, it wouldn't give you the points. And I can see now I got 3 out of 118 points. I'll do one other thing here, which says configure a banner of authorized use only. So that's what I'm going to do now, and that is banner MOTD, which stands for message of the day, some sort of special character, and then your message. One thing you can do with packet tracers, you can copy and paste. So I'll just copy that text. We don't need the quotes. Hitting Control C to copy. Come in here and choose paste. And I need that same special character. Those are our delimiters. Whatever's in between that will be our message. And I hit enter, and I can see my points went up to 6 out of 118. If I hit check results here on the instructions page, this will show me all of my assessment items, and my assessment items show me exactly what everything is looking for. So I'm looking for, under the console line, I need to set the password, I need to use the keyword login. Under the gigabit Ethernet 00 for the JSC router, I need to set a description and the IP address, also the subnet mask. These are all the different things that the score is looking for. One thing I don't just outright give you is the default gateways. The default gateway is always a router, and the default gateway is a way out of our network. So if PC1 or PC2, or even the switch for that matter, wants to communicate outside of JSC, so they want to communicate to the tech center, or they want to communicate maybe if there was an internet connection off of the router here. If they wanted to communicate outside of their network, they have to send to a default gateway. So the default gateway for a device is always the closest router, and then the closest router's closest interface. So what I mean by that is if you're PC1, what's the closest router? Well, it's the JSC router. And on that router, what is the closest interface to PC1 and PC2? Well, it's this interface right here. And this interface is gigabit Ethernet 00. So whatever IP address gigabit Ethernet 00 has on the JSC router becomes the default gateway for all of the devices over here. PC1, PC2, JSC switch. Let's take that same approach for the tech center. So if I'm PC3, what's the closest router? Closest router is the JSC router. What's the closest interface of that router to PC3? Well, it's this interface right here, which is the gigabit Ethernet 01. So whatever IP address the gigabit Ethernet 01 has, that's going to be the default gateway for PC3, as well as PC4 and the switch. One thing to note is the default gateway is always going to be on the same network as the device that's looking for that configuration. Let me see if I can find another example here. So let's take a look at this here, this topology. So if I'm the JSC PC and I want to figure out my default gateway, I ask myself, what's the closest router to JSC PC? Well, we only have one router, it's router 1. What is the closest interface of router 1 to JSC PC? It's the gigabit Ethernet 00. So whatever IP address the gigabit Ethernet 00 had for R1 would be JSC PC's default gateway. See if we can find a more extravagant network setup here. Okay, here's one with a few different routers, a few different devices. So let's take a look at this. If I am this PC down here at 172.16.31.4 and I want to configure my default gateway, what I would do is ask myself which router is closest to this PC. It's going to be router 1. not router 0, that's an extra hop away, as they say. Router 0. And then what interface on router, router 1, what interface on router 1 is closest to this PC? Well, it's this interface right here, which is the gigabit Ethernet 00. So whatever IP address gigabit Ethernet 00 has, which appears to be 172.16.31.1, is the default gateway for this PC. 172.16.31.1, which is what they have for the gateway. So if I go to the configuration tab, that is what they have set. So again, your default gateway is always a router. It's always the closest router to you and the closest interface of that router to you. So for these PCs over here, these laptops, closest router is router 0. Closest interface is this interface, gigabit Ethernet 01. That has an IP address of what appears it's not set, so whatever that would end up being set to would become the default gateway for these devices right here. Okay, so resources to use for this particular midterm. Like I said, we have in the dock sharing, I have the switch commands configuration, and I will upload a revised version of that with some additional commands. But if you have the old version, everything that we need for this particular lab is on there. I'll just add a revised version for going forward. Most of the information for configuration is going to come out of week 3 and week 4 under that chapter 2. So under week 3 chapter 2 here, there's some good videos how to navigate through this basic switch configuration. Is essentially what we are doing for this midterm skills check. That would be a good one to watch. Going through these packet tracer labs, the practice labs, will give you some step-by-step on how to do some of these things. Under the practice labs as well, I have this chapter 2 packet tracer assignment video. This used to be a required lab, but I just have a video showing how to go through it, so that's an excellent resource there as well. Under week 4 chapter 2, again, this is where you're going to find the actual assignment. This I have due on July 3rd, so you have a few weeks to get this completed. Hopefully this video gives you some insight on how to get started, some resources to use. Again, if you get stuck, let me know. One thing you can always do is just save this packet tracer file. Save it to your desktop or something, or your downloads. Attach that to an email, send it to me. That way I can see exactly what you're looking at, maybe where you're stuck, and I can help you out. A couple of tidbits about the class. Week 9 is also our midterm exam. You want to complete this by July 3rd as well. So I have a review out there which gives you some information on what to study and what the exam's going to be all about. And then you can go and take that midterm exam. So we only have 2 assignments really here due. I should say 2 major assignments really here due for July 3rd, which is the midterm exam here and the midterm packet tracer skills. And then we have some various quizzes throughout week 1 through 8 that need to be completed as well. Inside of the grade center, you can always go in there and you can see what's going to be required and what's going to be graded. So a few quizzes, there's that midterm skills check. A couple more quizzes here. We're going to end up having a written final, hands-on final, subnetting quiz. Again, just to give you an idea of what needs to be turned in or what's upcoming. Again, if you have questions, let me know, and hopefully this lab goes smoothly for you. Thanks for watching.